Hi everyone, today I want to tackle quite a serious issue actually among adult students who, instead of enjoying the music that they're learning, absolutely torture themselves. And it's the idea that music is somehow sacred, and no matter how hard we try, our efforts are always going to fall short because we lack some essential ingredient that only real musicians have. And I think it comes from the development over time of the idea of the concert pianist as some kind of mythical creature with an aura of mystery that's up on a pedestal and we can never hope to approach, their levels of genius. And to an extent that hasn't developed by accident. We want to be entertained. When we look at people in show business, we want to be enthralled by them, we want to be entertained, and we want to think of them as separate from ourselves. But unfortunately that has kind of backfired, particularly in classical music, because what's happened then is we continually compare ourselves to these performers and we imbue them with something that we don't allow ourselves to claim. Now that's not, of course, to say that an internationally recognised concert pianist isn't an incredible musician and they have absolutely Olympic levels of determination, skill and training to allow them to do what they do. That's why we listen to their interpretations of our favourite music, so that we can gain pleasure from what they do. But when you think about the music that you're studying, 95% of it is on the page and only 5% has to do with what that performer brings to it. So what's in that 95%? Well, it's the notes on the page, the rhythm on the page, the articulation, the phrasing, the dynamics, the tempo, everything that the composer put thought and work into making sure was clear for the performer to interpret. And if you're paying attention to all those elements and you're including them in your performance, and you've done the practice and the hard work involved in bringing it up to a level where you can flow through without hesitation and apply the necessary techniques, then your music isn't lacking anything. Think of it this way, no composer ever wrote a piece of music and finished it and thought, my goodness, that's so good, everyone's going to be afraid to play it. That's not what music is about. But if we're continually comparing ourselves and deciding that somehow we fall short because there's some mysterious element that we're convinced we're missing, then all we're doing is depriving ourselves of the joy of that music. And that was not the composer's intention. And maybe that partly comes down to what we've grown up with in terms of listening to descriptions of various performers who've had rave reviews from critics, who then have to use, quite flowery vocabulary to describe why the concert was so good. So then we develop over time this idea that there's this extra level that is completely inaccessible to the likes of us. And I think it's telling when I ask an adult student what is it they feel that their performance is lacking, because often I hear them play something and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and I say, well, what is it that you feel is so bad about it? They're not able to tell me, they just know there's something missing, well, they think there's something missing. But often all it is that we're just comparing ourselves to some imaginary standard, and feeling that we fall short simply because we're not on an international stage and we haven't devoted our entire lives to the study of music. And as I said at the beginning of this video, it really robs us of the joy of expressing ourselves through music and enjoying the music that we love and enjoying the repertoire that we've worked so hard on. So what's the cure? I think it's important to remind ourselves that when you're listening to a concert pianist, that they do have something extra that they bring to the music, and it's a lifetime of experience and maturity around a piece of music that they may have come back to many, many times and developed over years. And yes, part of themselves starts to be expressed through that music, purely because it's probably a piece of music that they've returned to so many times and they're so familiar with it. And as we develop our familiarity with a piece of music and our comfort with it, we're able to invest more of our own expression into it. But you can be sure as well, a concert pianist, when learning a piece of music, allows themselves at a certain stage to start experimenting with it, to know what it feels like to play something too fast or too slow or too loud or too quietly or with the wrong touch, too light or too heavy. As amateurs, we often don't allow ourselves that luxury of experimentation with the music because we feel that somehow it's profane to do that to a wonderful piece of music. We shouldn't do that. We need to be very careful about how we approach it, lest we treat it with insensitivity. But I think we have to take off the kid gloves when we're tackling a piece of music that we love and allow ourselves to experiment and to develop that familiarity with music that comes from learning it, working on it, going away from it, coming back to it over time. I think it's that allowing a piece of music to mature is where our best performances are going to come from. But we have to allow that process to happen. And if we're listening to a performance of a piece of music that we love, I think it's really important to be really explicit about what it is we like about a particular performance. It's not enough to go, oh, that musician is amazing, I could never be that good. Really ask yourself, well, what is it about that performance that I really like? Is it the dynamics? Is it a particular lightness of touch or a weightiness that they bring to it? Is it a particular emotional charge that they bring to the music? Really think about, what is it exactly that I like about this performance that I can emulate myself, that I can experiment with. But I think above all, we just have to work on not being afraid of the music and not being afraid that we're not good enough. You are absolutely good enough. If you can play a piece of music, then you're good enough. It's really important to allow yourself to enjoy that music and to stop imagining that the composer must be spinning in his grave. I hear that so often from people. Oh, I play this music, the composer is absolutely spinning in his grave. He's not, or she isn't. Absolutely not. If they're listening at all, they're just delighted that you're playing it. So if what I'm saying resonates with you, I hope you'll give it a little bit of thought and think about how you can get over this imposter syndrome that so many of us suffer from. Because it's actually preventing us from being better musicians. If we're secretly terrified of the music we're playing in case we're not being sensitive enough about it, then we're not actually able to give our best performances or explore the music deeply enough or really come to make it our own. And in the end, that's what it's all about. It's just allowing the music to become part of who we are and to allow ourselves to express what it means to us, which would be quite different from what it means to somebody else. So I'm really interested in hearing what your experience of this has been, if this resonates with you, if it strikes a chord, excuse the pun. So let me know in the comments, and hopefully together we can start to enjoy our music more. I'll talk to you again soon, and in the meantime, happy practicing.